Welcome back to Close Up. We're now approaching half a decade in the grip of the opioid crisis here in New Hampshire. We've got a first responder theme going today, so we just heard from the police. Now it's time for fire and rescue to weigh in. Manchester Fire Chief Dan Goonan, giving you two jobs again. Yeah. And Regional Director for AMR, Chris Staywaz, are here. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Chris, let's start with you. You keep track of these opioid overdose deaths. We saw them step up early in this process, and then we saw a little progress and a plateau. What's going on right now, though?
Well, right now we're seeing a reversal in that trend. We're seeing a higher fatality rate in both Nashua and Manchester versus what it was 365 days ago. And that's an alarming change for us. You know, we've been making some progress, as you said, so we have to look at different ways to approach this and get more information about why this is happening.
And do we know any indicators what's driving that?
We don't. One of the things that I think would be helpful would be an overdose fatality review committee that dives down deeply into each overdose fatality, similar to pediatric fatality review committee, to tell us more about what's going on and importantly, where we should be spending the millions of dollars that are coming into the state as well.
And we actually did some reporting on that last week, looking at that had started under Governor Hassan and has kind of fallen off. Chief Goonan, what's your opinion on that committee? What can be gleaned from that, I guess, when all of the leaders in this community get around a table and start talking about individual cases?
Well, I think those types of things are vital, and they should have been here for a long time. Encouraged that we think that's going to be coming back soon. I'm encouraged. I think, you know, we put out a press conference last week or the week before, and I think that sparked some conversations with the state, which is great. I think as we go forward, we've got a lot of plans here, right? We have Safe Station, we have the ACERT team. We're working with the crisis intervention team from Manchester Mental Health. But I think what we're going to do as a community here is look at this more along the lines of through the eyes of like maybe emergency management or just a public health type of an emergency, because I think we need everybody at the table now. Put all these plans together and make changes if we need to. But this is certainly a crisis, and we're seeing, we talk about the opioids, but I think we're seeing all of the above now. We're seeing a lot of methamphetamines. We're seeing tons of spice. Spice is going through the homeless. We're seeing a spike in homelessness. So I think it's about time we come together as a city and really sit at the same table and attack this. Put all the plans together, ask for the state's help, and really go at this with both barrels.
And the cities, particularly Manchester, has shouldered the biggest burden essentially in the opioid crisis. How has that evolved with this doorway system? That's some of what you were talking about, that the problem has not, it's been concentrated even more, it sounds like.
Yeah, we are, in a lot of ways, we are treating the entire state here. And what we tried to do is call upon the state officials to say, hey, look, we need some help here. This is over any community's pay grade. We really need to, attack this problem. But we do have all the services down here. The Doorways program needs to build up the back end. They have a front door, but they really need services in the back end. I just saw an article, I think, out of Seabrook. They were asking for the same thing. We need help here in Seabrook. Well, we need help here in Manchester, as well as throughout the whole entire state. So make these doorways. We're very hopeful that they'll work. Right now, we're seeing even more people coming to Manchester since the doorways open. So obviously, we need a Doorways 2.0, definitely.
Director Staywaz, are we still seeing, and this was such a big issue at the beginning of the opioid crisis, these public overdoses? People in public restrooms and a Dunkin' Donuts, things like that. Is that still a daily response for you guys?
That's an interesting question. We still see them on occasion, but certainly not as frequently as we had in the past. More of them are in private residences and different locations. As Chief Goonan mentioned, there are a tremendous amount of requests for not only heroin or fentanyl, but also meth and spice and other overdose situations that we're running into, and a very large number of homeless people now that are really overwhelming the homeless shelter here in Manchester.
In terms of Narcan, is that interaction, has that changed at all the dynamic in terms of fatality? You see a lot more overdoses you're able to save?
Well, I think for the first time last month, we saw more Narcan administered in Manchester by a layperson, a public person, than we did combined. So, you know, it's very common to see Narcan now at an overdose scene. I actually think that there are, it leads to people not calling because there's such a wide availability of Narcan. But that's good. You know, we're saving lives. We're keeping people alive by doing that, giving them the opportunity to get into treatment and get into recovery. You know, it's widely available now, so we've definitely hit the mark from that standpoint.
And Chief, Safe Stations has played such a huge role in this process. It's become a national model. We're hearing some talk now, at least in Manchester, that maybe it's time to phase it out. What's the perspective from the fire department?
Yeah, I hear that. I see the editorials. I see the social media. I don't think we're even close to that. You know, we're providing an access point. We've been working on this for a long time. We're probably at 6,500 people that have come in asking for help, and I think you know, as we start to speak to the state, I mean, they're coming to us saying, okay, we think we're going to make some changes with this doorway. We need to be open 24 hours. We need a stabilization all over the state, and you know, my response to them was, this is what we've been doing at the fire departments and in other parts of the state, and we have a statewide safe station program. You know, it's very strange to me that I'm fighting to support one of the programs that's really working in the state and a program that's going national, yet I have to fight, you know, my own politicians and my state politicians. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think we can really change things, you know, if we continue down the road that Manchester's going. I can tell you right now, since you know, Mayor Craig got in, we've been working on this constantly. We come together as a city team. If we could just get the state involved, and if we could get this, handle this like a public health emergency, I think we could really make some big inroads.
Put a lot of care and effort into this. We hear about the term compassion fatigue. Chris, describe, how do you guys stay with this? And we talked in the first segment about first responder mental health. You're reviving people sometimes, in some cases, multiple times a day, and you've got to care about them every time, even if they're not showing that care for themselves. How do you deal with that with your team?
That's a huge piece of what we have to deal with internally, not only at AMR, but at fire service, police, law enforcement as well. You know, we look at creative ways to do that. There are a number of organizations that are out there, some right here in Manchester, that focus specifically on resiliency for first responders and mental health, keeping ourselves well so that we can keep other people well. That's a very important piece that we are focusing on now.
How about, Chief, in your department, in terms of dealing with these repeat overdoses? It's not, you're basically, you know, in that high stakes saving a life thing, that person comes back to life essentially, and there's usually, I mean, they're not going to pat you on the back and say thanks.
Yeah, compassion fatigue is real. We're planning on we're rolling out some training with that aspect. We've been doing training all along, but I go on an awful lot of calls with the guys. I want to see what they're seeing. You know, I want to ride in the ambulance. I want to go out there. I want to make sure that that these guys are well, both physically and mentally, because, like I said, compassion fatigue is real. And mental health issues are very real in our business.
Absolutely. As we wrap up here, Director Stehwaz, hypotheticals can be kind of silly sometime, but if you were able to just design the system and say, what do we have to do next? What do we have to do next?
I think several things. First of all, as Chief Goonan mentioned, we need help on the backside of the doorway program. We need to have the same services available in Berlin or Dover or Laconia that are available in Manchester, from the standpoint of not beds per se, but treatment options and treatment modalities. Second is homeless shelters. We need more of those in the state of New Hampshire, not just in Manchester. And the last two, I've said many times before, we need jobs for people that are in recovery, and we need housing for people that are in recovery. Those really are the four legs of the stool that I think would be an important piece. And I think they're all being worked on. I don't think this is news to anybody. I think there's a lot of good people throughout the state that are laser focused on getting these things done, but we need to continue that laser focus and keep our eyes on the ball and get these things moving and in process, so that we can go back to the gains that we were seeing a year or two ago.
And Chief, it sounds like this is something obviously we're going to be dealing with for a long time, and you guys are in it for the long haul.
Absolutely, and you know, I agree with Chris. We need to look at this. We need to all get together in the same room and look at this. That's why I think looking at this with the perspective of a public health crisis, get us all in the same group, and let's work on this together.
All right. Chief Goonan.
Well, thank you.
Director Staywas. Thanks. We can fist bump from across the way here. There we go. Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
thank you so much,
absolutely,
gentlemen.
anytime.
And we'll be right back with some perspective on the emerging U.S. Senate race here in New Hampshire from John DeStaso.